Hello, and this is Nick Kennedy, your gray man, on a Martin Luther King weekend. Waiting, I guess, for the Buffalo Pittsburgh Steeler game, which is going to be pretty snowy, my understanding, but they're still going to go ahead with it. It was an exciting game yesterday with the Lions and the Rams, so it's going to be hard to beat that. But anyway, before we get into that game, I thought that I would give a review of a recent movie that I've seen that is certainly worth discussing. Um, we're going to do The Sound of Freedom, which is a very interesting movie. At times, rarely, you find that the actual making of a movie or what happens behind the scenes is at least as interesting as the movie itself. One that would come to mind would be Citizen Kane, which they said was probably the greatest and worst thing to ever happen to Orson Welles. And there's a whole long story behind that. And if you don't know it, let me know. And I certainly don't mind dedicating some time to going over that whole mess with Orson Welles and his coming to Hollywood. But another one of those movies is The Sound of Freedom, which is it's based on a true story. It's a very depressing, sad story at times. It's about basically trafficking of children, and this was an actual case that was brought to the attention of Tim Ballard, who worked for the FBI, and I guess it struck a nerve with him when he found out that these children were being trafficked. So he went above and beyond his duty, which we're going to get into a little bit here, and he ended up being a hero and rescuing quite a few children and unveiling a conspiracy of child trafficking. So anyway, let's kind of get into it. I did see it. It's actually now believe it is on Prime is where I saw it, and I don't believe it cost anything extra. I think it was included with the membership. So if you do have that, I would definitely look it up. However, because of the subject matter, I wouldn't say you'd watch this for pure entertainment purposes. As a parent myself, although my children are now very grown and very independent, it's very nerve-wracking as a parent when your children are growing up. You have to straddle a line whether you're being too cautious or if you're being reckless. And I found myself a lot of times, especially with my daughter, when she first started to walk, I was like running behind her with pillows just in case she's going to fall down and hurt herself. So being a parent is difficult, and especially when you don't want to be too overly protective. But this movie, I'm glad it came out when when my children are growing up and out on their own, because if I had any little ones right now, I certainly would have my parental warning sign on high alert. Because again, there's a lot of things in this movie that are true. There are some things that are not true. We can kind of touch on that a little bit too. But basically, the movie starts out with a glamorous fashion model who had a child modeling agency, and she would go around and she would entice parents to bring their children around, promising them, glamour and modeling, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, what would happen is the parents would see, money starts. This was pretty much in the slum areas of I believe it was in Latin America, some of these countries like Bolivia, Colombia, where these people, find it hard to feed the children. So the idea that, hey, that, they could, be the next, Brooke Shields for those old timers who remember Calvin Klein ads. More recently, I don't know who does them now. I suppose even Marky Mark, that would be going back into the 80s. So I don't know, whoever the fashion designers are now and the models. But essentially, their ideas, they got dollar signs in their eyes, and of course, they would bring their children in and trust these strangers, only to find out that when they went to pick them up, a lot of times they weren't there, and they never would see them again. This part of it was pretty much true. There was a woman who was a beauty queen. I'll cover for that in a few minutes. I'll should go more into that, but essentially, yes, she would be a real smooth talker, and she would talk these parents into surrendering their children over to her with very little background check or vetting. Just the idea that they could get some money and maybe make good on raising their children a little bit better. Now, there are some problems with some of the accuracies of the movie. They took some liberties, which I'm not surprised. I mean, a lot of times Hollywood has to be Hollywood and stick a few things in there. And I'll try to go over a couple of things I discovered that were true or not true. But another interesting thing was this movie was made some time ago. It was released, I believe, in 2023. But it was actually made, I think, almost 10 years prior. It was made by 20th Century Fox. And I guess it was heralded as being a very good movie, because it is. But that was shelved. It didn't come out when it was supposed to come out, because Disney bought the studio, and Disney didn't think like it. I don't know. I don't want to talk for Disney. They're doing a lot of strange things I don't understand right now, or a lot of people don't quite understand what Disney's going. But essentially, they shelved it. They decided that it did not, for whatever reason, call for a release date. So yeah, this movie has been released in the last year or so, but it is older than that. And again, I don't remember when it was made. I want to say probably close to 10 years ago, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so Tim Ballard is the hero here, and he actually insisted on the actor that played him. And that's an actor who's been around for a while. He was in, I guess, The Count of Monte Cristo back in the early 2000s, which I guess was the role that made Tim Ballard want him to play him in this movie. And I think there was a TV show too, A Person of Interest, and I think he did a few years on that as well. He's been doing a lot of things. He's not necessarily somebody you'd probably first think of as a lead actor, but he's very, very good. He did an outstanding job in this movie. So yeah, he was handpicked. That's pretty rare. Not many people. I know that JFK actually selected someone to play him, as did Hugh Hefner. As Star 80, he picked Cliff Robertson. And I think Cliff Robertson might have been picked by JFK too. Although again, this is from memory. I don't generally look up things like that before I do my videos. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But Hugh Hefner for Star 80 picked Cliff Robertson, and I think Cliff Robertson was also picked for to play JFK by JFK. But anyway, getting back to that, also his wife is kind of a comeback of sorts of Mira Sorvino. She was an actress who was semi-big some 20 years ago or thereabouts. She's a daughter of Paul Sorvino, who recently passed away. He's been in a lot of things, most notably that championship season. Usually played an Italian gangster type. The Godfather of Harlem, I know he might have, I'm not sure if it was his last role. It might have been one of his last roles. Was Forrest Whitaker, came out a few years ago, and I know he was in that. A very fine actor. And his daughter was in Mimic and Romy and Michelle's Reunion, I guess it was called. She claims to be one of the victims of Harvey Weinstein. and that she didn't play ball, and he ruined her career, I believe. So I think that's one of the reasons why she kind of like just disappeared somewhere in the later 90s. That's what she claims. I don't really know. But this movie, she actually did a mini comeback, not a major star, but a really solid supporting star of Tim Ballard's wife, who I understand was very much solid in real life as well, in the respect that when Tim Ballard found out that in order to bring good and to save these children, he had to make certain sacrifices. I don't want to, spill too many beans here, but his job was in danger. He was working so hard at it, and she made a point that he had to do what he had to do. And apparently, from what I found out looking at the background of the story, that is quite true. She was a very solid wife in the very tough times. So anyway, yeah, that's basically what it is. I mean, he goes to South America to uncover the ugliness of this child trafficking. And he did a lot of good. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was the Beauty Queen, and I actually have let's see here. Okay, and there it is. Okay, to the left, you'll see the actress in the movie that played her. And she did a great job. There really wasn't much to the role other than just looking beautiful and talking Spanish, which she did very, very well. And to the right is the actual Beauty Queen. Now she was a contestant for Miss Cartagena. And I know I'm mispronouncing this, and I apologize to those who might be from there. Cartagena, maybe Cartagena, Cartagena, we'll call it. I don't know. The character in the movie is called Katie Giselle. The real woman is called Kelly Johanna Suarez, and she was arrested. She was arrested in a teamwork between, I guess, I want to say Bolivia. It might have been Colombia. I thought it was Bolivia and San Diego. They worked on this internationally, and they did pick her up. And I think she was held in San Diego prison, and a Bolivia wing or something. I didn't know there was wings of prisons, but apparently there was a Bolivia side to this prison in San Diego, and that's where she was held. My understanding was that she served about 1.5 years, and I believe she's out now. I don't know what she's up to or what she's doing. Her studio was called Stage Models Caribe, and she owned it with a gentleman. Oh, I should call him a gentleman, should I? A man called Samuel David Olava, and they worked on this so-called modeling agency, which was for child trafficking. I don't know what happened to him, but as I said, Kelly Johanna Suarez did serve 1.5 years, and I guess they released her. Anyway, so that's about it. Now, as far as the movie, of course, it was very, very good. You really felt for it. It pulled at the strings of your heart, obviously, as a parent, seeing poor, young children go through what they had to go through. Seeing, adults playing on their fears. Not easy to watch. So, you wouldn't go watching this like you'd go in to watch, a superhero movie. Although in a lot of ways, Tim Ballard is probably more of a hero than those superheroes because he's real life, and he risked it all, and he did a lot of good. So tip my cap to him. The things about the movie, I guess, that needed to be clarified. I think even the beginning of the movie in the theatrical release, I believe, Jim Caviezel, Caviezel, who played Tim Ballard. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, and I probably should have. Jim Caviezel was the actor, and he mentioned that I guess the thing that was not realistic about the movie was that it gave you the impression that children that are abused in this way are that way because they are kidnapped off the street. And the unfortunate truth that they wanted to get by is like maybe 10% of the children that are sexually abused are kidnapped. The other 90% actually come from, which I think is worse, the actual family of friends that have gotten the children in one way or another, put them in harm's way. And that's the real tragic part of this, is because at least in the movie, when strangers took the child, if the child ever gets back to the parents, which is probably very slim, but if it does happen, that they know they're safe. And what, as a parent myself, what's very disturbing is that when their own family's doing it to them, there's not really any shelter for them. There's no way, I mean, if you can't trust your family, then what do you do? And especially as a child. So anyway, to sum it up, the movie itself is a learning experience. It does pull at your heartstrings. It's not a feel-good movie. At the end, when Tim exposes it, you feel that justice is served. But it's a bit of a roller coaster ride if you're a parent, especially. So yes, I think it's a good movie if you want to see and learn more about what happened. It's mostly a true story. I highly recommend it, and that's going to sum it up for now. So maybe next time I'll go over a more happier movie, I would hope. This is Nick Kennedy. It's your Gray Man, and thank you for listening. If you like it, subscribe, like, and share. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.